Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new lesson, a new session. Um, so this is Discurso Escrito de la Lengua Inglesa, um, first year, 2021. And well, I got a JoJo's background, if you can check it out, because the next season is coming soon. So yeah, I'm a fan of JoJo's. Anyway, talking about the class today, we're going to be dealing with vocabulary, and we're going to study the book, in this case, English Vocabulary in Use.
Also, we are live on YouTube right now. I have no subscribers. No tengo ni suscriptor, así que no worries about that. Okay,
Mentira,
so
profe, tiene dos.
Tiene
Ah.
tres conmigo, ¿sabes?
oh, buena. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Like and subscribe and click on the bell. Okay, that's pretty good. Okie dokie. So today we're gonna study about vocabulary. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen with you guys. Okay, and let me read morning. Lol. Yeah. Okie dokie. So here's in this case, the book, and we're gonna be discussing about politics. Politics. Okay. So probably this can be for some people kind of let's say polemic topic, but we're gonna deal with it in a very let's say let's say from a point of view which is more like scientific or more like uh, let's say I don't know how to say this, more formal and more scientific. I would say that, yeah, sociological. That's the point of view, sociological. So first, we're gonna watch a video so that we can introduce the topic and so that we can understand the political spectrum around the world. But more than around the world is like based on the American and the British system. But we can relate, we can relate those political positions with the Chilean reality. And I think we're going to find some interesting aspects of the national politics. Okay, so we're going to watch the video right now, and then we're going to have our impressions and reactions to the video. Okay, so here we go.
In the modern political world, the terms left.
Hold on a second, I got a technical problem. Hold on. Espérame un poquito que micrófono, algo le pasó.
Segundo el micrófono. Ahí está. Entonces, se me desconfiguró, de hecho. Micrófono, altavoz, okay. And also altavoz, yeah. Now,
Left wing and right wing can often be heard and misunderstood. But what do these terms mean?
again.
In the modern political world, the terms left wing and right wing can often be heard and misunderstood. But what do these terms mean, and where do they come from? The terms left and right were first used in an ideological context during the French Revolution of the 18th century. Those on the left were in support of the revolution, and those on the right supported the monarchy. This idea of the left supporting change and the right wanting to keep the status quo continues today and is key in some of their philosophy. The difference between left and right-wing ideology fundamentally comes down to the balance between individual liberty and government power. The left strive for an equal society and believe that the state should play a substantial role in people's lives. This means increased regulation on business and higher taxes on the rich. The left also tend to hold more progressive views, often opposing the death penalty while supporting same-sex marriage and women's right to abortion. The left have more lenient views on immigration and are usually the driving force behind any separation of church and state. Economically, the left often follow the Keynesian, or as it's sometimes called, the interventionist school of thought. In brief, this system would have the government intervene to avoid an economic recession. This means taxing highly during good or boom times and spending this money when the economy truly needs it. The level of government interference varies by how far left it is, with communists wanting complete control over all aspects of the economy, whereas the centre-left want only moderate intervention. The right believe that a level of social inequality is inevitable, and think that the government should have a limited role in people's lives and business. This is, as the right believes, that preserving personal freedom should be the government's main goal and should not impose too many rules on people's lives. The right also tend to hold more traditional and religious attitudes than the left, often opposing things those on the left support, such as same-sex marriage and women's right to abortion. Economically, the right can often be seen using the new classical approach, which includes having a laissez-faire policy. This roughly translates to leave things alone and means less regulation to increase innovation and lower taxes to increase growth. In short, the right views government interference in business as a bad thing and thinks that the market prospers best when left to its own devices. Parties on the left include Labour, the Greens and the Democratic Party, while those on the right include the Republicans, Conservatives and the UK Independence Party. There is also a centre ground where parties like the Liberal Democrats lie. These parties hold views from both the left and the right. This all being said, the use of left and right to describe modern political parties is not always accurate. There are actually many different political spectrums that can be used to judge how far left or right a party is. Parties often judge themselves based on other current political parties. In this regard, Labour is often seen to be on the left and Conservatives are often seen to be on the right. In actual fact, lots of Labour policy actually places it in the centre or right of the political spectrum. The same is true in America, where both the Democrats and Republicans are on the right of the spectrum in political terms, even if the Democrats are sometimes seen as having more left-wing values. The political spectrum is also not just two-dimensional. Within both the left and the right, there are people who hold authoritarian and libertarian views. Authoritarians wish for greater government interference and libertarians want the opposite. As previously stated, the left tend to be authoritarian and the right tend to be libertarian, but this is not always the case. We are often taught the extremes of left-wing is communism and the extremes of right-wing is fascism. This is not strictly true, as the extreme authoritarian nature of fascist governments, combined with left-wing economic beliefs, make it hard to place on a political scale. While it is useful to have these labels in order to help the majority of people easily distinguish between different ideologies, it is also important to remember that they are not always accurate, and looking at the party's policy for yourself is often the best way to choose who gets your vote, rather than following a label blindly.
All right, now, yep, I would like to hear or read some of your reactions in this case, some of your opinions about the video. Did you like it? Did you understand the video? And also maybe if you agree or disagree with some of the points of view expressed in the video. I'm gonna start reading your. Okay, we got something. Música china de fondo. Okay, so what I'd like to remark from the video is like the origin, for example, of the terms left and right, so that they were originated in the French Revolution. So that's why, I mean, the context today is so different from that time. So, but if we want to identify with for example, that time point of view, is basically that the right or the conservative, they were related or attached to the monarchy, which is pretty much like keeping the status quo, and but the left, normally represented by the people, or by in this case, a lot of liberal um, philosophers and politicians, which is also related to the burguesy in that case, right? So the burguesy at that time, or la burguesía, were liberal and were on the left, okay? But that changed a lot, because after the fall of the monarchy in the Western world, we had like a new, different political scenario, okay? So today it's kind of different, when today we got the left and the right, um, according or organized according to the values. That's one thing. The economic point of view, and how you build a country, and the the principles that you have in the foundations of a country, right? So and maybe some people can have, in this case, maybe leftist ideas and also right-wing ideas, but you're not necessarily a fascist, okay? But many times when we see somebody who's got a lot of conservative ideas, and we got a very liberal economic point of view, non-state intervention, and etc., we call them fascists in this case. But I think it's more, in this case, accurate to call them conservatives, okay, or right wingers. Let's say the left wingers, or the leftists, they have this, in this case, a communist or socialist, or maybe social democrat point of view. So we're going to discuss a little bit what is social democracy, what is communism, and what is socialism, because they're not exactly the same, but they're related. All right. So if you want to say something, just use the microphone. If you want to agree or disagree, or you want to, like, have your opinion in the chat room, just go ahead. Go ahead, guys. All right. So what else we saw in the video? Yeah, the British and the American, in this case, political spectrum is kind of similar to the British one, in the sense that you can see, for example, some political parties, like the Communist and the Labor Party. The Labor is socialist, and the Communist is, what and also you got, for example, the Green Party, which is like in this case we got in Chile the El Partido Ecologista Verde, or for example other kind of parties like that, or the Humanist, El Partido Humanista, the Humanist Party, normally in the leftist spectrum, right? We got a lot of political parties in Chile. So according to some, in this case, a sociologist, this means that this fact that we got a lot of political parties, this means that we got a strong democracy. Why? And I'm going to justify my point of view, but at the same time, we got a weak democracy, but because of another, reason. But when we talk about the number of political parties and the number of ideologies represented in the political system, our democracy is strong in the sense that we don't have only two political parties, left and right, the conservative and then the labor, or the social, the Republican and the Democrat. We got many more, ideas in this case in the base of our society. Okay. So in that case, some people around the world see the Chilean democracy as strong because we got representatives. Okay, a lot of them. But at the same time, our democracy is weak because we see that maybe the executive power, which is that we got the three powers in this case: the legal power, or the justice power in this case. We got the executive, and also we got los tres poderes del Estado. All right, the Congress in this case, which is in this case the power that makes the laws. But in Chile right now, we see a phenomenon which is like the executive power has gained a lot of influence on the other powers, and also on that it influences that every aspect of life. So we are getting closer to an authoritarian in this case, let's say kind of system. That's why our democracy is weakened, because of the accumulation of power only on the executive power, which is the president, and also the ministries and stuff like that. So we got this paradox. It's a paradoxical thing, and you can see this paradox around the world. It's like you can see this, for example, we saw that with Donald Trump in the United States. We see a lot of interventionist policies still in the United States, a lot of colonialism, a lot of imperialism. At the same time, in Great Britain, we see a lot of that too. But also we got this left-right game in this case, but many times the liberals are in the middle, and they play with both sides, pretty much like the Democracia Cristiana in Chile. A lot of people call them amarillos, like the yellow party, and we got a lot of reasons to tell them like that. Okay, I'm gonna read the comments right now. Okay, do we though? All right, Valentina, I don't think so. Yes, that's okay. The main reason why people don't vote is representation, and not only here, all over Latin America. Yup. Okay, good. Maybe in Chile we got a lot of political parties, but any of them represented. Not maybe none of them would be como ninguno de ellos. None of them. True, Valentina. Yeah, that's a very interesting point of view, because as some sociologists or experts around the world, they see like the surface. They see like maybe only what they can see in the political system. If you go to Cervel, there are like 100 political parties, but you don't see a lot of people acting in this political parties. Okay, and it is because maybe the ideologies and the values and the heart of the people are not exactly represented in the political parties. But also at the same time, we don't trust in the political parties because they don't represent necessarily the will of the people. And also we see a lot of corruption in the political parties, that they seek for power and not to really benefit the people. So in this case, we got this sort of moral decadency in this case, because we see that they don't really put the people in first, the people's will in the first place. All right, they just seek for power and to govern and use the money, which is a lot of money in the state. In this case, safe box. We got a lot of money involved in this. That the government, the state has more money than the companies in general, but they don't use it for the people. That's the point. Okay, I'm not saying that we don't have to tax the rich, because taxing the rich is one of the solutions, of course, for the wealth distribution. Okay, that's a very socialist idea, but I think it's pretty much like logical in my personal point of view, so that we can tax the rich, and also the state should spend the money on the people. That because everybody pays taxes when you buy things. Every year you pay taxes. The pymes pay taxes. The normal people pay taxes. in this case with the el IVA, ¿cierto? So I'm going to read Paola again. He said, yeah, the best example of that are all the people that got 0.001 for their constitution campaign. Exactly, 0.0001 second. That's not a strong democracy. Absolutely not. And I agree with you, Paola, and I agree with the other point of view in the sense that maybe superficially we got a strong democracy for the world, but if we just self-analyze and we self-criticize our system, like there are so many things that we need to improve, so many things. All right, so a lot of things on the paper, they look beautiful, but in reality, we don't have like real representation in the Congress, and also we don't have a real representation in the Constitution. So I think that's this momentum in Chile, this the specific situation that we are living is important because we need to build a new constitution which is representative of the people, and the diversity that we have in the country is so big because we got, for example, our in this case native Latin American peoples which are still with us in this case, and their points of view and their in this case cosmovision is not represented in the Constitution, because the Constitution was imposed over, for example, the original peoples in the country. And at the same time, the last Constitution was built only in a closed room with 3 or 4 people right there, and they were very conservative and in the middle of a dictatorship. So that's not democratic. Absolutely not. Okay. Valentina says, yeah, plus young people are less interested in politicians. We're disappointed. Absolutely disappointed. And I agree with you. You know, I think that the politicians have failed a lot in understanding what's going on with the young generations. You know, the young adults, like from 18 years on, that universe is really big and powerful in our country. And the politicians are like the boomer politicians, they haven't understand a word about what the young people need. And you guys, you know, the young people, you're the future, you're the present and the future of our country, you see. And so as the old generation is dying and the old ideas are dying, of course, we need, you know, new representatives or new documents like the Magna Carta, in which we got all this spectrum of ideas related to the animals, related to the nature, related to our original peoples, related to the new values, and a very strong separation between the state and the church, any church. I'm not only talking about the Catholic or the evangelical, but I'm talking about all religions. And because the state is, in this case, should be secular. Secular is, you know, in this case, based on reason, not only based on religion, but based on reason, based on science. So when we talk about a state which is based on rational thinking, we separate in this case the myth, or we separate in this case the religious points of view, which are okay if you live them in your own family and in your personal, you know, realm and universe. I think that's okay. I mean, you can believe in whatever you want, but we don't have to mix beliefs with strong morality based on science and also the people's will. You know, so they are both, you know, so different things. And many times, you know, we see that the religious points of view are intertwined in this case, or mixed with you know, a secular morality and point of view, which should be like the one in this case in the Constitution, right? So maybe you agree or disagree, but that's okay. But the point here is that we need, for example, first a constitution which is representative to all the different political spectrum, in this case ideologies, which is something which is I think it's a kind of a slow process, but it's absolutely necessary. Okay, and at the same time, we're not going to solve all the problems with the constitution, because then the rest of the laws which stem from the constitution, you know, the system which is going to be born out of the constitution must change, and that's going to take time, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, but the constitution is going to rule the country like at least for 50 years. And if we got to do amendments, like amendments to the constitution, that's absolutely okay. But the foundation of the new society in our country is going to be so different because of the new constitution, or that's the idea. Okay, that's the the desire. All right, so that's why it is important to vote. Of course, you can vote for any people you want, but I would, in this case, my personal point of view, I would vote for people who are really representative of the people's will, the people's heart, you know. So there are different, like in this case, groups or lists that we are going to vote. So we need to decide in this case in wisdom. That's the idea, you know, decide with the heart, but also with the mind. What else? Okay, so we have this, in this case, explanation of 4 minutes of the, you know, the right-wing policies and left-wing policies. You know, a strong state in the left side, and a weak state on the right side. Okay, there are different philosophies, you know, involved in this, you know, but you can see the example of China, or the example of, for example, a Paraguay in this case, in which you got, for example, like a strong state, you know, maybe not so many. But in Paraguay it's different, you know, because you got a lot of freedom. In China, you don't have like so much political freedom, but you got a lot of economic freedom, which makes the countries grow. So the Chinese phenomenon is really interesting, because you can see that now China is the first economy in the world. You know, they got a lot of also a big army in this case. So you got also that the China is now the hegemonic power around the world in these two you know, areas. You know, the geopolitical force, and also at the same time the economic force. And on the other side, you got United States, like the only country in this case which can, in this case, like equalize the power of China, but with a different point of view. Like supposedly they are like really liberal in this case, and they got a lot of freedom, but at the same time they got a lot of paradoxes in the same country. You know, a lot of poor people, you know, a lot of homeless, you know, the state not helping the people because they believe in you know, deregulation and low taxes, but at the same time, you know, they got a big army in this case, just like China, just like Russia, and also fighting for geopolitical, you know, positioning, and that's pretty much like the game, you know. And so sometimes the discourse is one thing, but the foreign policy is another thing, you know. So be careful with that, you know, that we need to, in this case, identify these paradoxes, you know, in which you see like the discourse on one side saying something, but in reality, like they act in a different way. I'm going to read the comments in the chat room. People always complain about taxes in the US. Yeah, absolutely, they are always complaining, but with the taxes you build the country, basically, you know, all the public services are based on the taxes, you know. But because they got this philosophy of, you know, the freedom, but when my freedom affects the freedom of other people's, I mean, that's not like really the freedom that we need, you know, because we need to cooperate. So like, for example, a simple thing like wearing a mask. When you wear a mask, you are protecting yourself, and you're protecting other people. So a lot of people are, you know, complaining in the United States, I don't want to wear a mask, you know. It's like, okay, if you want to die, that's your problem, but you don't have to infect other people if you got the, for example, the COVID-19. So that's why they don't understand, you know, their political values are kind of you know, in this case, paradoxical, if you want to describe it like that. Paola, in this case, it's so backwards though, to think people don't want to recognize indigenous people, exactly. Whereas in New Zealand, it's completely normal to have a Maori MP, absolutely, and also a prime minister who is a woman, exactly. Yeah, so you can see that New Zealand in this case, they have evolved positively. You can see a lot of progressive ideologies which are being implemented, and you got, New Zealand is one of the happiest countries in the world. If you go there and you read the polls, you read the different surveys, they are one of the happiest countries in the world because of the strong state, taking care of the people, serving the people. You got in this case, a female prime minister, which is awesome in this case because it's a different perspective to rule a country. But at the same time, you recognize all the different diversities of human beings, including, indigenous people. They're human beings too, the same as us. And we saw, like imperialist countries, like, for example, Great Britain coming to your country. In our case, it was Spain, and they were like just killing other human beings, not recognizing their cosmovisions. But I think that we owe a lot to the indigenous peoples around the world. Okay, so but it was because this hegemonic, in this case, career or race, Spain versus Great Britain versus the Netherlands, and France also conquering the world, gaining territories for their monarchies, but at the same time killing human beings. So now this is 21st century. So we need to reverse that thing. We need to create different countries in which we acknowledge all types of human beings and all the different backgrounds, okay, and ideologies. The perfect place, yeah, New Zealand, yeah. They have COVID in Australia, yeah, absolutely. They have COVID in Australia too. New Zealand is doing better than Australia in many different terms, right? And but yeah, I think that also COVID-19 has affected politically around the world countries because their systems are, in this case, are exposed because of this pandemic, because you can see a lot of cracks and a lot of glitches in the matrix because of the COVID-19. So you can see that if the state doesn't get involved, you got a lot of people dying, and you got a lot of people losing their jobs, and also like pymes, for example, like small companies, in this case, going bankrupt. And that case, you need a strong state, but not only in this case, because you need a strong state which is human, based on human values, that really, for example, can boost the economy, help the companies, the small companies, but at the same time helping poor people, so that you can eradicate once and for all poverty and ignorance, and then you can have like more prosperous countries. COVID has shown the true colors, absolutely. And I think that this is something which is kind of, the universe is like kind of, moving, in this case, the threats, and saying, I mean, you need to change. You need to change. Nature is telling us you need to change, guys, because we're not okay. We may have like material things, but inside our countries and we are not doing okay because we don't care for each other. That's the most basic things. Like simio mata simio, for example, stuff like that. Ape doesn't kill apes. The basic rule is you need to take care of your tribe. Yes, you have a problem. Yep. Amen, brothers and sisters. So the thing is that that's the problem. I understood. Penis. It was penis. Yeah, the small companies in English, but that's okay. All right. So yeah, maybe we got this clear, image, or this clear, let's say, utopia that we need to try to make happen. But the problem is that these ideas of equality are not well represented in our current constitution and in our current political system. You see, so and the idea is to keep on pushing. All the countries, not only Chile, the people in this case, the people need to keep pushing for representation in their countries, and also equalizing of rights. We need to really have our rights respected, but not only on paper, in the reality, in the in the state policies. Political, in this case, political parties, like really working for the people and not only for their personal interests. So I think it's so bad for a democracy, for example, to have politicians having stocks in different companies, como invirtiendo en acciones de la empresa. So of course you're going to take care of your own personal interests and not on the people's interests. So it should, for example, in some countries, they are like banned. Some politicians who got stocks on big companies, they are banned. They cannot exercise their in this case jobs as politicians if they got a certain relation to any company, because that's wrong. It's so wrong. And in Chile we got, like, most of the politicians, they got like maybe they can have small companies, or they invest on companies, and that is so wrong in so many ways, you see. So when you want to issue a law or create a law, you're going to benefit the companies and you're not going to benefit the people. So that's the big problem. It's like you got this paradox again, this contradiction of values, etc., right? So now, but I'm going to paste in this case this link on in this case UCampus, so that you can rewatch the video if you want. We got 4 minutes left, and I've talked so much and so fast, but we're gonna deal now with the book, and then we're gonna finish our lesson. If you wanna use the chat to make your comments, just go ahead. So we got like in this case chapter 82, politics. We got the types of government, and we got, for example, the 4 types of government. Monarchies are still present in, for example, Thailand, remember, or for example, the Arab countries. We still got monarchies around the world. So I think it's okay to talk about them. They can be bad, of course, in so many ways. Sometimes they got good things, especially when they share the richness or the power to the people, with the people, but not all the time. So I would like anybody or somebody to help us with the reading. Types of government. Can you help us with the reading, please, guys? Maybe Scarlett, Monse, Fabiana, anybody? Nobody wants to read. No importa cómo les salga la lectura, chiques. A mí me da.
Yeah, ¿puedo yo?
Yes, Valentina, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Types of government. Monarchy. A state ruled by a king or a queen. There are also countries that have a monarchy, but the monarchy is not the ruler. Example, the United Kingdom. Republic. A state governed by representative men or women by the people, and a president. Example, USA or France, people who believed in the system, and Republican. Democracy, a system of government in which leaders are chosen by people. Example, France or the UK, people who believe in this system are Democrats. Dictatorships, a system of government in which one person rules the country. One person has total power. This person is called a dictator.
Thank you very much, Valentina. So in this case, you got the modern, in this case, types of government. And you can see sometimes like combination of these systems, like in the UK. So you got the monarchy, but the influence is only, in this case, religious, political, but they don't really, the queen doesn't really make decisions on pretty much everything, right? But still has power. But it's something which is like behind, because the decisions Normally they're made together with the, in this case, with the parties. What else? Also, we got the Republican system together with the democracy, especially in Chile, for example, or in the United States. But also I think the democracies around the world are kind of weakened, because what we said, the lack of representation, and also the accumulation of power in the president, and also sometimes in the Congress, right? And they don't hear the people. That's the problem that the democracies have today. Dictatorships are absolutely banned around the world, absolutely canceled. But I think there are still dictatorships, like pretty much like in Northern Korea. You can have different types of dictatorship, because when you see any type of, in this case, concentration of power, even in democracies, you can see that maybe some political figures, they go closer to dictators, right? Especially when they want to intervene in every aspect, and they affect the Congress, and they affect for example, the Supreme Court. That's the executive power shouldn't influence on the other powers. That's the idea, but it happens. So in that case, the presidents, they get closer to dictators in this case. What time is it? We're about to finish. So we could continue with this class if you want. The next lesson, absolutely. The next session, we can continue talking about, political beliefs, political positions, and sharing ideas and insights. Okay. Siento que se me pasó volando la clase. Bueno, igual hablé como loro todo el rato, pero es como harto que hablar, harto que decir. So next class, we're going to continue with this thing. So thank you everybody for being present today. And with this class is on also on YouTube. And remember to like and subscribe. Nah, I'm just kidding. So see you next class, and have a great day, guys. Bye bye.
See you.
Chao,
Bye.
profe, muchas gracias.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Chao, profe,
Igual,
gracias.
cuídense mucho. Thank you. Bye.